Mercedes-Benz has added V8 power to its 7th generation S-Class limousine. Now for many prospective S-Class buyers, this is the only way to have your luxury limousine. Let's take a closer look. The 7th generation S-Class first landed in Australia in 2021 with a solitary inline 6-cylinder turbocharged petrol option, known as the S450 and the slightly longer S450L. The new S580L driven here marks the introduction of petrol V8 power, together with a hefty $65,000 premium over the existing inline 6. Visually, the S580L bears close resemblance to the lesser 6, with 20-inch alloy wheels and a sleek new front and rear design. Standard fitment digital LED headlights look the part and cast an excellent blanket of light on the road ahead. Unlike the 450, you can only have the V8 in long-wheelbase 580L form. And let's face it, if you're going to stump up to buy a V8 limousine, you may as well do it properly. This is the centerpiece of the S580L. It is the M177 4-litre twin-turbo V8 engine. Now, it is a mild hybrid, so on paper you're getting the best of both worlds. 370 kilowatts, 700 newton meters, a 0 to 100 time of 4.4 seconds, and a claimed fuel consumption average of 10.8 litres per 100 Ks. The 48-volt mild hybrid system can add up to 15 kilowatts and 200 newton meters of electrical assistance under heavy load, and is largely benign in its day-to-day operation. A 9-speed torque converter automatic takes care of shifting, with the V8 sending drive to all 4 wheels. The suspension package comprises both air suspension and adaptive dampers. Naturally, you can go one step further and opt for a 48-volt E-active suspension system for an additional 17K. The S-Class is traditionally the technological and safety flag bearer for the Mercedes-Benz range, but when you jump behind the seat of the S580L, it's also clearly a lesson in cabin presentation, quality furnishings at all the contact points, and really an attention to detail that you will not find in 99.9% of new cars, but that really is what sets the S-Class apart. Now, in terms of physical hardware, there's a 12.8-inch center display, touchscreen display. You can also drive it through various functions, and there's also a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster. Now, that's not that uncommon. You get that in a lot of new cars. It's the way that Mercedes-Benz allows the user to really immerse themselves in that technology. Mercedes-Benz for quite some time now has had MBUX. They now have a new function called MBUX Interior Assistant. So instead of having to command everything and preface it by saying, "Hey Mercedes," it now uses a camera inside the cabin to pretty much pick up what you're doing and take away some of the clunkiness of that process. I'll give you an example. So if you want to adjust the mirrors, normally you would have to select which side of the car you want to adjust and then go and adjust it. This allows you to look at the mirror. The camera can see that I'm looking at it, and I can adjust it like so. If I look over to the left-hand side, the camera picks up on it, and then I can put it neatly into place. Another example, say you're reversing, you've got a blind in the back window. If I put this into reverse, it picks up that I'm looking at the rear window, and the blind automatically goes down for me. They might seem like little 1% touches, but ultimately that is what makes the S-Class feel so special. Elsewhere, the head-up display includes an augmented reality feature that integrates blue directional arrows for navigation instructions and generally allows you to keep your eyes on the road. The MBUX infotainment system is a familiar one, with straightforward menus and excellent user integration. There was a couple of occasions where the software was caught napping, but all in all, it's one of the better offerings on the market. Now, normally our driving impressions would start obviously from the driver's seat, but given we are in the S580L, a vehicle that is used a lot for chauffeuring and limousine duties, it makes sense to sit here. And in many respects, this is the nicest place to be. I feel cocooned from everything outside, well insulated, and really just in opulent surroundings as well. Soft contact points, plenty of comfort. I'm able to recline my chair all the way back. I've got excellent leg space, and the cabin is just quiet and serene.
There's no big rebound moments inside the car. Everything just feels nicely damped, nicely controlled. And if you're in the back seat, it means that the cabin never really feels chaotic or that there's a lot going on. There is something to be said for just sitting in the back seat of an S-Class, because it really does show off what car makers can do when they've got a little bit more budget and a little bit more resource at hand. Okay, so if the rear seat of the S580L is all about opulence and refinement, for me, when you're in the driver's seat, it is sheer smoothness. I've driven this hot V8 engine in many different forms over the years, and I really can't recall it being so seamless and so smooth. From the moment you sort of depress the accelerator, pulls away really seamlessly, and there's a really rich torque curve. You can have it both ways in the S580L. You can have loads of torque and refinement for seamless grunt, but you can also have quite strong pulling power in the mid to upper echelons. It works really well. We've stuck it in sport mode a couple of times today, and certainly does mask this car's 2-ton plus curb weight. Probably the one exception to the rule in terms of that smoothness, surprisingly, is the 9-speed automatic gearbox. If you just nudge the accelerator a little bit more, it will often downshift, and there's often a bit of shunting, a little bit of a shudder as it does that. And that's at all speeds, whether it's around town or even if you're going for an overtaking maneuver on the highway. I do it again, I can almost replicate it every single time, just a bit of a shunt that doesn't really align with everything else that's so luxury bent with this vehicle.
Ultimately, it's important to use some perspective with the S-Class. Against more affordable garden variety passenger cars, it feels as though you're gliding along the road. Yet, against the more expensive Mercedes-Maybach S680L that tops the S-Class range, the ride here isn't quite as polished. For us, the S580L straddles that neat line between comfort and ample performance.
In terms of ride and handling, again, super smooth. We're not in the variant today with the $17,000 suspension package, but even in base trim, it feels really compliant, it feels tied down to the road, and it works quite well with the engine. I say that you can come through a corner and apply way more gas in this than you think you could initially. It doesn't really get squirrely or anything, it just hunkers down, allows you to apply the power through all four wheels, and feels controlled at all times. If you get to a set of bends, yes, you do feel the sheer heft of the S580L, but everything is done in a really linear and predictable fashion. It's not a driver's car per se, but it's still a really enjoyable car, and I think that's the real distinction with the V8 powered S-Class.
To summarise, the S580L is an incredible car punctuated by its V8 engine. At this price, however, it is only realistically within the sights of a privileged few.